It's like so much more chill.
Hello, everybody. So lovely to see you. I'm just going to chase the last stragglers, then we're going to get going. And there's loads of people online, so wave and behave.
I mean,
Amanda, I'm going to hand over the technology side of things on that side.
So you start when he gets to the first screen and he's all good. And then these two tunes. These tunes. And then
Hi, everybody, and welcome to our first 2023 event. There's a chair, grab another one, there's one, otherwise. And we've got quite another. All the non-risk takers are online because they were afraid of the traffic and load shedding. Because even if you've got the schedule, you actually don't know. So we've got quite a few people online, including one of our speakers, as you can see, Yolanda right over there. And it's really just awesome to have so many people here today. And for those of you that read the mail and answered my call out for wine, most appreciated. I'm quite impressed at how many people had leftover wine from the festive season. But luckily, I also know there's a Tops across the road, so I was just banking in case. So yeah, welcome. Sorry, Marie, you got my back. It's just. When we met in September last year, I had all these grand ideas that we'll definitely have another session before the end of the year. And as you all know, it's the end of January like this. Yeah. So we do our best to try and round everybody up. And it's just really, really crazy at the moment. But I just firstly want to say welcome to all of you and those of you joining us online. And some of you I know, for example, one of our guest speakers is in Dubai at the moment. So a couple of people from around the world and around the country. And then in Pretoria, which is just as far. Okay, stay and drink all the wine before you go back. Okay. So this topic, culture and influence, has been a topic in the making for quite a while. Those of you who've been around for our online sessions, we've had quite a few people give their personal journeys in terms of technology and the greater technology experience. So it could be a very specific to their career, or it could have been like, how did I land up in technology? But one of the big things has been around hearing other people's journeys. And when we had our in-person session last year, a lot of people came up to me afterwards and mailed me afterwards to ask about what do we do at Mint to create our culture? What did the other speakers do to create their culture? And how do I impact that? Some of the people who asked that question aren't in leadership or weren't in leadership, and they kind of felt, maybe this is only something you can do if you're in leadership. And so this topic was brewing right from then. And it's just been really amazing to get the speakers on board. And so that is today's focus. And we've got 3 speakers today. Shane, one of our speakers has got this nasty 24-hour bug that's going around. So she was all set yesterday, and we had our speaker check-in call at 3, and at 2:30 she was like, I'm out the bathroom for 24 hours, so see you on the other side. So beware, firstly. But the good news is it's 24 hours apparently. But yeah, so we've got this lineup of speakers, and one of the things I've tasked them with is to engage all of you. So instead of us kind of standing up here and telling you our experience, you know, and you're going to get involved. And that's why some of these lovely ladies, and now I need my notes because I'm not that great at remembering the exact details, but some of the ladies and the companies they work for put their hands up to sponsor. So we've got some great prizes, and they're going to be handed out on participation, and there's no test, don't stress, no Microsoft exam. But yeah, just to really drive this, because it's no use talking about culture and influence from a one-dimensional aspect. Okay, ladies on the chat, Amanda, sorry, I did task you to be in charge if you don't mind, because I'm not near my laptop. So if there's any questions in the chat, please won't you just yell. So you got your hand up. I saw that as it went up.
No, I was actually trying to just put a heart. I didn't understand.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you. Okay, so it's easier if you drive it for me, please. Sorry, we're working off that screen. If you can just jump to the next page. So you just go to the. Thank you. Okay. So just for those of you who are new to WIT, welcome, especially doubly welcome. The WIT Network is a North American-based organization that was initially started out of the IMCP channel, which is the International Association of Microsoft Partners. And in 2018, WIT decided to seed from that because they wanted to become agnostic to technology. So it wasn't just Microsoft Partners invited, women in tech all over. And one thing I've learned about being part of the WIT network since 2015 is that North America does things very differently to the rest of us. And it really is the United States of America, and that's their world. So they really struggle to understand our format, being very relaxed and hey, how are you? Matt, I don't will grab a chair. Thanks.
If you manage with this. Thanks.
I'm not going to say it's because you're the same size as the nursery school kids that have to do that. There we go. So, the North American chapter is regional, and if those of you who know much about the United States, regional literally means their region, and that's it. So they have like North California, South California, Central California, and never the three meet or interact. And so when I said this is how we do it in Joburg and why it's taking so long to roll out in Cape Town, obviously the pandemic didn't help. They think this is amazing, but what are you doing? What are we achieving? So they go and watch all of our videos afterwards, and we get a lot of positive feedback on the model. So there is a Big Brother. There is a Big Brother organization. For those of you who want to join, there's a membership fee. It's in dollars, which at today's exchange rate, and being the end of January, might not be on your wish list. But in terms of the interaction, the purpose of the WIT network is for women in technology, whether you are a tech person yourself, a developer, a designer, project manager, you're in the thick of it, or you're in technology adjacent. So you're working in finance, HR, marketing, sales, or within a technology company. Okay. And that's what we're about. And our purpose in South Africa is threefold. Number one, to provide the support and networking for women in technology. You're not alone on those days when you're the only woman on a project and there's loads of other things happening in your life, balancing kids and other aspects of your role and trying to get developers to stick to commitments and that type of thing, you're not alone. So that's the first thing, is networking. People share their stories, you connect and drive engagement that way. But it goes beyond that, is we want more people into this industry, and it's a great industry to be in for women because it's a secure career, it's sustainable, and there's growth options. And of course, now we've proved that you can literally work anywhere. So as long as you've got a stable connection. The second aspect is just to the leadership advancement. So we're going to hear a lot from people who have made that journey or in the process of that journey, and what you can learn from them. How could you become a leader, getting a mentor, identifying a sponsor, and that type of thing. And then the last is just supporting.
I wonder if we should stop and bring people on the benches and they can shout if they don't hear. Otherwise, we're gonna.
According to the host, you should be able to hear you sitting here. So just let me know, Caroline. This is what happened when everyone braves load shed. Okay. So while they're sitting, just to get you all, so if you haven't yet joined our LinkedIn group, please do so. The details are there. Otherwise, just search for the WIT Network South Africa. We post stuff there, and I also encourage other people. Jackie is one of our real true techie people, and she posts a lot of knowledge sharing stuff there. People that are looking for career advice or career opportunities, engage there. So really, it's a great place to drive engagement. And then to support the female-led businesses. We really want to drive entrepreneurship, support, awareness, knowledge, and we do a lot of that. So that is what WIT is all about. You jump to the next slide. I'm going to put Yvonne on the spot, but Yvonne at the back there. So IMCP, I just mentioned, is the International Association of Microsoft Channel Partners. And I know that they're due for a name rebrand soon, but those of you that are in the Microsoft space, this is also a great membership facility for support, partner support, and that type of thing. So if you are interested to learn more, there's Yvonne. She's now getting booted to the corner further and further. Okay. Thanks very much. All right, ladies. So thanks, Lorette. Next slide. So there we have quite a few sponsors today, which I just really want to give a shout out to. So Echo, Bron and her team, jumping up and down, are hosting us today. And the catering that will be provided afterwards is from Echo. So very big thanks to the team that are jumping up and down. Thank you very much. And then Sheshnee in the pink dress over there is from Zella Law. They've sponsored some very interesting tea infusion sets. So that is those of you that are, well, firstly, I mean, if you're drinking wine, then I don't think you qualify. So we'll just see who's applicable. But Sheshnee, thank you very much. And then Legit has just arrived. They are out here. As you know, Legit is one of our popular training provider partners. And they are giving out training vouchers to the value of 1,400 Rand each for Microsoft Excel intermediate training. So let me know. Well, make sure when you win the prize it's suitable. Isometrics, I saw you. Oh, there's the Isometrics team at the back. And they've also got some goodies for us. Thank you so much, ladies. We're going to be dishing those things out. It's some nice, you know, we all like to take stuff home in our handbags. So there's some notepads and things like that. Thank you very much. And Paula, I also saw Paula, she went green. There we are. Paula, as many of you know, Paula has spoken at a couple of our events, especially when it was in the thick of COVID and trauma. And Paula focuses on personal development and support, trauma counseling, etc. And she helped us through as a group, keeping us sane. And Paula kindly has offered to provide all of us with a free personal development assessment tool. So I'm going to send that out as an email link. I'm going to send it out with Paula's email tomorrow and start that conversation with you. So there we go. Thank you, Paula. And I better thank my company because what they don't know is that we also sponsored the one. I was so nervous that they wouldn't have enough that I thought, let me just quickly go past top. So thank you to Mints. But thank you very much to everybody. I appreciate it. And without further ado, we're going to jump in to the last slide from me, which is introducing our three speakers. So, Bron is our host. And she didn't give me a bio, which is very cheeky, but then I realized afterwards, when you've known someone since you're 14, I think there's an underlying assumption that I should know her bio. Okay, so Bron is from Echo. She's going to tell you her story. The problem with having a best friend like me is that when you ask to speak, it's less of an ask and like, so I've put you in the first slide. And she bravely, you know, out of her comfort zone stepped up, but she joined me in HR as an HR career 20 years ago, and for her sins is still there and still loves it. So, but I think just really perfectly positioned to kick off the discussion about culture and influence. And then Yolanda, whose camera was on and now she's jumped off again, but you saw her, Yolanda. She's coming to us from Dubai today. And she's also going to be discussing culture and influence from her experience. And I'm just going to quickly tell you a little bit about her. So Yolanda is an industrial engineer by profession with business and data analysis experience and a demonstrated history of working in banking, manufacturing, supply chain, and aviation. Oh. You must be exhausted. You look very young and refreshed after that intro, Yolanda, okay? But one of the reasons she's speaking is because she is the founder and CEO of Zoe Projects and Consulting, which is a process engineering consultancy. So very interesting insight from self-owned business and just to get that kind of perspective of creating and driving culture from a leader's perspective. Okay. And then our last speaker of the day has committed to me that she's going to get us all on our toes and jumping today. But the long-time WIT people all are familiar with Sheshnee. Sheshnee is a storyteller. Her goal is to connect people with wisdom through the ancient art of story. Her personal life mission is to connect people with sources of information and wisdom and practices and to have fun doing it. So don't think that you're getting all free tonight. Okay. I'm going to, obviously, they're going to give you further insights when they get up to present. But for now, I'm going to hand over to Bron.
Thank you. I don't think it makes much difference if I sit or stand. The same height either way. Look at me now and then I will start again. Law, are you going to drive that and I'll just follow mine or whatever's easiest?
Maybe I'll drive because you're not in there. Hey?
No. So what I would like to say, I think from all of us and fellow speakers and past speakers and long-term friends and colleagues of law to say thank you so much for all you do for this forum. I think it is incredibly important, and you know, without
and I can get my company to buy one. I mean, who wouldn't want this position?
Yeah, and I think it's not an easy job, and you do it like a superstar. So I think everyone is grateful that you keep everybody together and in line. Thank you. So thanks for all coming through to the horrendous traffic of boys and joining us here at our awesome Echo home. It's lovely to see so many people, and I think everyone's enjoying actually being in person and with other humans. It really makes such a difference. So I found this was a bit of a difficult topic. You know, we talk about it a lot. Everyone knows what culture is, what it means. But quite often, and I'm sure a lot of us feel that it's overanalyzed and overcomplicated, overinvented. Culture is a feeling, something that you can't touch, it's intangible, something that cannot be forced, and is ultimately, you can skip.
Sorry, we're just quickly taking your notes down,
Thank you.
which is why the real brains of WIT is here. You need somebody who knows how to take your notes down.
This wouldn't happen if it was on Zoom, just putting it on.
I'm gonna hold you to that, man.
Perfect, thank you. Now, so culture means a lot of different things to different people, but for me, it's a feeling and something that you can't touch, and essentially is an outcome of many and other things. So I'll go into a bit more detail about that later. So tiny events, the next slide, are something I'd like to really touch on, because it depends on how, what people need from their companies, how they define culture, what they want as part of their culture. But it starts for me with tiny events. So many little things can happen that have such great impact. So, we go on looking at big EVP projects and big benefits that look fancy on paper. But I think, I know people forget about the little tiny events that actually make up and build a really healthy culture. So I'm going to tell you a little story of my own. I joined Echo in 2018, and I tell the story at every single one of my new inductions since I started my new one, right up until my most recent one in January. When I joined Echo on my very first day, it was the 2nd of July, 2018, and I happened to walk into the kitchen and I found one of our shareholders in the kitchen wrapping up a bin, tying it up, putting it to the side, putting a clean bin liner in, and taking that bin all the way down to -2, which is where we do our recycling. And that tiny event told me all I needed to know about my shareholders, the executives, and the people that were taking care of this business. And it boils down to 4 things. No one is more important than another. We each have each other's back. We care about our home, and we care about how our actions affect others. So, we can talk about these lovely, shiny things, but really what is at the heart of the business, and how does everybody take care of each other? So I can tell you hundreds of different other stories that have happened in the last 5 years of being at Echo, but I believe that this is the most honest and real way to instill a family feeling and a genuine, sincere way of looking after one another. I believe it's mostly the foundation and backbone of culture. Does anyone else, that while we're talking about that, have an idea of a tiny event that made a big impact?
I have one. When I joined Isometrics, the directors used to sit and have lunch with us, either in the kitchen or the canteen downstairs. And they'd chat to us. And I suppose it speaks to what you said, that nobody is more important than the other.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yolanda, can I pick on you?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Yeah, I'm in complete agreement about that statement. Sometimes it doesn't even have to be, that big of a thing, but real kind, small, I guess, activities and events do make all the difference. Sometimes it just takes, I guess, smiling back, to whoever. You never know what that person is facing. But just by instilling that culture of just being kind, smiling back instead of maybe responding in a harsh way, that I think for me could make a difference to instill that, enabling company culture. So that's what I would say.
I love that. Thanks, Yolanda.
Thank you.
Lots of people still joining. So, I have a bit of an odd story because while I share this tiny event that I'm so incredibly proud of and I tell it so often, it also makes me a little emotional and sad because February is my last month here. Yeah, it wasn't an easy decision. I resigned a few weeks ago and it's like leaving family. But that story, I think I'll continue to tell throughout my life because it's just a tiny event that makes big impact. So I'm going to ask you all to look out for those little tiny things because we can quite often let them go and not give them too much thought. So I've taken up with a new company that has, you don't have to go, yeah, you can leave it there, thanks, Law, who has created a new vacancy, wants somebody to take care of their people and culture. They worry and want to make sure that their people are always looked after. So I literally have found another amazing bunch of people that put their people first. And I'll bring up an example later about, we always say customer comes first, but they don't. Your customer will get everything that's promised, but we need to put people first in these sort of situations. So how do you measure good culture in an organization? And I would say that, you know, if you're looking externally at a completely neutral company, there's a whole lot of ways you can gauge them, surveys, whatever things you can. But if you're looking for one for yourself and you want to make sure that you are making the right decision to move to a company, you know, you need to be able to ask yourself questions that are really important. So how does every level of the organization use their values to enhance their people's lives? You can hit me up there, Law. Not necessarily their customer first. As is an employee or many employees deeply satisfied with their workplace? Do they buy into the business plan and objective? Do they naturally feel that they want to uplift their position within the business because it makes sense and because they feel their purpose is real? So if humans feel valued, have purpose, feel part of a nurtured community, how can they possibly go wrong in their choice of a workplace? So when organizations consider or review benefits for an employee's value proposition project, and an organization must ask themselves, does this or will this add value to somebody's life? And I think that is really important. So don't say forget about provident funds and medical aids and what have you, because these are all helpful, but no, that's no good putting them in because everybody else does, or not doing enough research to make sure you are using the right medical fund, those sorts of things. They have to enhance somebody's life and make a difference to their homes and families. So exiting a workplace that you've loved and cherished for a really long time, you can obviously is a difficult conversation to have with the people that trusted you with this position in the beginning. And I can promise you it was one of my most terrifying days. I don't have lots of those, but it was a difficult conversation to have with the people that you spend so much time with and shareholders that have trusted you to a position. But they were incredibly kind and sweet and understanding, and they, you know, let me know that I was valued and I was integral to the culture at Echo. But it was actually more of a light bulb moment for me because I realized that 5 years ago, I'd have already joined a very healthy culture. And this was created by these two men who, the cliched, begin your business in a garage, they truly did. And before they started anything, they built their values, they decided how their people were going to be treated, how fast they were going to grow their people, and at any point made sure that they never stopped that. So they never dropped a ball with the people. The people were first and forefront. So when they started, I think in the first 2 years, there were 10 employees. And they decided that they didn't want them rushing out getting lunch, so they would buy lunch for everybody every day. And to this day, 90 people sit in this cafe every day and eat a wholesome lunch, which is cooked by our caterers that have done our food today. So, you know, it's something that's really important.
Replacement, Bron. It's very hard to find.
I'll let you know. Yeah, you cannot force culture. It is something that happens organically and it's cultivated by people that have the same values. It's Ubuntu. It's how we do this together. And culture is created from the beginning, like they're done, with a purpose, top down, sideways, bottom up. I mean, it really is so important that everybody is in this feeling of Ubuntu. How we treat others and the value we derive in return. The thing that makes us feel part of something and our desire to make that something better. I think that is an amazing way to build your culture and maintain it and enhance it and ensuring that you're putting your people at the heart of every decision that you make. I think I've got one more bullet there, Laura. Okay, and then I think we only have one more slide. So who is responsible for healthy culture? And everyone can just scream it out if you know. Right, yeah, absolutely. Anyone, sorry. Are any of my Echo colleagues online or I think they're all left to give space. Is anyone online?
Hello, we here.
Oh, goody, thank you. I'm going to pick on you guys if you don't mind. Can you guys give or think of an Echo experience where yourself or somebody else that you noticed took the initiative to promote good culture and what made you feel like doing it?
Yeah, I'll go. So firstly, Bron, we're going to miss you so much. We were just talking about it while you were talking and we were like, oh, don't go. The position's not open. She's not leaving. Yeah, I think, I don't know, I was thinking about it earlier about our culture. And I think something I would say is that it's been a really tough couple of years for a lot of people. And I think everyone's trying to just carry on like everything's great and fine. But to be able to connect with people in your workplace that can acknowledge that times have been quite tough and actually create safe relationships. That's what I've had with the girls I'm actually sitting with right now. Maybe that's why we're here, because we're passionate about this. But yeah, I think like just to be able to like really connect with people on a human level and not just like a robotic work deliver performance level is really special. And that is something I've found here at Echo. So that's, yeah, important for me.
I love that, Annie. Thank you.
Yeah, look, if I may add as well off the back of what Annie had mentioned, and I mean, I've had this discussion with my friends, my personal friends, my personal circle, who all work for their own business or not work within their own businesses, which is obviously separate to the business that I work from or for. And we often have conversations and compare our stories. And it's the smallest things, like if something happens and I'm in an emergency situation, whether it means something's going on with my loved ones or something as simple as my toothache has been bugging me for 2 days now and I need to go to the dentist urgently and they can only see me at 1 o'clock. Like, that is the perfect example of where Echo completely understands, just again, making an example of our organization, completely understands the human element of employees. I don't need to take a half day's leave to quickly run out and run off to the dentist, or I don't need to take a half day's leave to go visit my mother who's ill in hospital, for example. Like, there's this intense human element that I find really takes priority when it counts, and business takes priority when it counts, but there isn't one or nothing. You know what I mean? There isn't just business or nothing. And I do realize now more than ever, especially comparing my story with my personal group of friends, is that that's not a given and that's not a norm. You know, very often companies insist that you're there at 8, and there's biometrics to prove that you're there by 8 and that you only left at 5 and that your lunch break was nothing but an hour. And very often, just again in my personal experience, I feel that breeds rebellion. It breeds spitefulness. If anything, again, using Echo as an example, the way we, I guess, empathize and sympathize with one another breeds a culture of a team. And we want to help one another, both in a business capacity as well as a personal capacity. I feel like.
Absolutely, Linz. I just want to go to your point because you pay it forward. So Craig has let you pop out, do this, do that, take care of your brand, but you pay it forward all the time. I see it all the time. You are looking after Abigail, you are looking for ways to help somebody else. And I think, you know, that is the organic cultivation of it, where people become unconsciously aware that they are taking on their responsibility to pay it forward for the culture because of the purpose that's there.
100%.
Sorry to interrupt you, Linz.
No, I think I've said, I've gotten to my point.
Thanks, Linz. Yeah, so I will leave you. Does anyone else want to share their own? We have Russian of like Steve.
I just think all of this is great, but it is built on trust. So if you can't trust the employees or there isn't trust within the group, then it's going to be very difficult to get to that. So it's brilliant to get to that trust and that open transparency to get to that point.
Absolutely. And again, built right from the foundation, from the very beginning, because to try and do that later is extremely hard, if impossible. So I'll just leave you with my little summarized version of my interpretation of culture. It's a non-tangible feeling that is the outcome of many and other things, organically cultivated from an initial purpose and value-driven objective of a business that cares, considers, and worries about the humans it chooses to be part of its tribe. This feeling naturally moves through the people who automatically take unconscious responsibility to do the same in return. It is everything and the foundation of a successful business and a home to a people's workplace. Thank you for listening to me.
Any questions for Bron? Any comments, observations?
I have a question.
There we go.
Yes.
I'll just stand and just ask my question. Hi, everyone. So question I have is, how then do you create or how do you continue a culture of an organization in this hybrid world? Because, you know, new people come into the organization, not necessarily meet everyone. You meet people on camera. Sometimes if they want to switch on the camera, you go to the office is empty, and you're just like, where's this culture that everybody's been speaking about?
Yeah. So there's a couple of questions in there, but I'll start with the hybrid side of things. So we worked really well for 3 months as we went into lockdown. Full lockdown, beautiful, fantastic. But very quickly after that, because we were all essential workers, we found that people were volunteering to come back all by themselves, because that might have meant because they were living on their own, living on the 5th floor, sharing a home with many people. Their circumstances were different. Everyone had a different situation. But we found that where some have not voluntarily come back, we've encouraged it strongly because of the collaboration that we lost. You know, when you sit next to someone and lean over and say, what about that? What about that? And we had a couple that were a bit not happy to come back, but very quickly realized why we were doing it. And we obviously had to have a couple of people that hybrid or don't come in at all. That's maybe 2 people. But what we do is when we have new people start, they come in every single day. So then they do get to meet all the hybrids at some point and to settle in, find their way around and feel part of it until, and if they go back onto a hybrid, at least they have met everybody in person, knows where everything is, and then we have events often. So even if you do work at home, you come to the event. So we do silly things like quickies and year-end parties, the obvious ones. But yeah, it's a difficult one and a difficult topic because it depends on the industry, depends on the departments, and on the ethos. I don't know if you guys, the dev guys like to sit in the dark and work well. That's where they thrive. So, you know, we need to make sure we are thinking about every place where somebody can thrive. Does that answer? Thank you.
Just to add on to that, so I think a lot of it is, people make up an organization, and people look out for other people. So 9 times out of 10, you'll find in one huge organization, you'll have one team that don't have the same flexibility that another team has. And 9 times out of 10, that comes down to the management. So we've seen it now as well. If you have a hierarchy of managers who care about their people and put their people first to make sure that their well-being comes, above the clients and the projects that they're servicing, you find a lot more happiness in those teams. And then you find the longevity of the success that they're experiencing is a lot better than the other teams who are being micromanaged and aren't being cared for. So I think if you're looking to sustain an organization's culture, a really good way to do that is to start encouraging that from the different levels of management.
And that comes with the different cultures that sets in different departments and teams.
Definitely.
So a organization culture is not necessarily a team culture. So you will have multiple levels of cultural teams across the organization, depending how big it is. Hence, to your point, is that if you do not see how culture is built from bottom up or top down, you will have a very different sense of how this culture progresses, how delivery, how focus, how we drive people in order to focus on what is needed from a company's guidance perspective. So.
Thank you. And if I can just add to that, so I've worked for quite a few big corporate organizations that's in a lot of interviews, and you'll find that a lot of the time we don't just look at the skills. We look at, is that person going to fit in with that culture? And that's almost as important within the interview process, with the recruitment and to select the candidates.
Yeah. Well, I think you had a question in the back here, but did someone ask a question?
I have.
Oh, here we go.
It's very hard because, and loud. I'm sorry. How do you go around from bottom? You're really trying to create this healthy culture, but now you're getting blockers from top management. How do you go around that? Because it's very hard. The people on the ground are really trying and showing the positive energy, but the top, it's very toxic. How do you go around that?
Sheshnee's going to give us the tools for that. So that if you were here with the introduction, I'm not sure if everybody heard me when I introduced and said 3 speakers have kind of a different perspective of this, but you're not going to leave tonight without some practical tools matched to what you need right now. And I think it sounds like, and based on a lot of facial expressions that I can see from up here, that that particular skill set is much needed.
Yes.
So we will absolutely get there. Okay, I'm going to jump along to Yolanda, who's on screen. Thank you, Yo. Hello.
Hi, everybody. I also, before I start, I also had a comment or question based on what is just being said now. And I wanted to ask, sorry if I don't have the name, but the lady just spoke about, in interviews where you just don't only look at the skill and the experience, but you also, I guess, vet if this person is going to be a great fit for your, I guess, organizational culture. Are there any methods that we could use? So let's say you do get somebody and, early on you realize that this person is not necessarily a good fit for your organization, but at the very same time, you also need their skill, right? Are there any practical ways you think could be implemented to try and get somebody, I guess, up to speed or on board with the culture? Sometimes, some people are not necessarily, I guess, acquainted with that. So what do you think could be a better way to try and, I guess, incorporate everyone and try to see if people can adapt to a specific work culture?
Yeah, I think generally that's why you have multiple people, within the interview process, because you can't just leave it down to one single person, right? And it's never going to be 100% perfect, right? But you're going to look for your best fit. It depends about the position as well, right? The culture that sits in the technical team, like we said, is not going to be the same culture that sits within the sales team. But you want someone who's, you feel can get on generally with a broader number of people. So that's why you would have the, possibly a 2, 3, sometimes 4 stage interview process, and then in some there's a panel interview as well, so you get multiple people's inputs.
How's it going? How are you?
Right. That makes sense.
Where the
Thank
other
you.
ladies are sitting. Yes, I'm gone. Oh.
Can we sort it?
Yeah, we are.
Based on the question that you asked, we had previously a very good candidate who was excellent in his job. But because he had very toxic culture, we had to let him go. Because he was to go to everybody. So now the work wasn't getting done because everybody not doing great. But so, yeah, great talent, but not have good character. So
Yeah,
we have to.
depending on the departments, it's easier to be able to separate, you know, the skills versus the culture fit. So in development spaces, traditionally, we say that if somebody is very ambitious and has, you know, the right attitude, it's easier to teach them the skills they need to be able to do their job than it is to try to teach them how to fit into our culture.
I also have a question around diverse culture, because you don't really want to create a team where everyone walks the same line.
Yeah.
And it's quite important to create a team with a diverse culture as well, because we learn from each other and we grow that way as well. So don't think that culture means everyone's the same.
Definitely. It's something to watch out for because you tend to relate better with people that are similar to you. So I think within that process, you also need to be aware, you know, that you need to diversify.
Definitely. I've seen some teams grow really well where there's diverse cultures, and it's a little bit of a shaving off in the beginning, but you do write the good off with each other if you do it with kindness. So there's definitely, I'm actually working with 2 teams with really different cultures, and I'm starting to see only after 3 months where they're starting to give each other actually sort of rubbing off on each other in good ways. So I've got one in the back.
Yeah, it kind of rubs off like that. Okay.
Yolanda, do you want to just maybe expand on your bio? Obviously, I didn't do too much justice. I just did a brief introduction, but perhaps just more about why and how you started your own organization and how your influence has created the culture around you.
Okay, once again, hi everybody, and thank you for having me. Thanks, Lauren, and I guess the team for this prestigious opportunity to be here. Ladies, I actually wish I was there. So you cannot believe the amount of FOMO that I'm, you know, experiencing right now. And by the way, you all look amazing and lovely. All right, so by introduction, I go by the name of Yolanda Mbanguzi, and currently I run process engineering and information systems or robotics consultancy. So we obviously seeking to going into businesses and doing the process re-engineering improvement. So I'm just going to share a little bit about my journey. I think I have a slide over here. And how we, you know, I guess came about, right? So the company was founded in 2018. And I also want to talk about the name as well. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
All right. So the name Zaware means, you know, the life of God. So for me, so that was, you know, I guess, you know, confirmation for me that this business was, you know, something that was, I guess, gonna succeed because we believe that, you know, the very breath of God was in it. And, you know, that's the name that the company came with and how it was birthed, right? And, you know, at the time, there wasn't, I guess, any clear vision, but I kind of knew that, okay, following this and, you know, once I got to define what the culture was going to be, or I guess learning from other people what the culture was going to be, then we would definitely be in a better space, right? Okay, so after about, I guess, 4 years in, there was still no culture, right? And I think for me, that was a bit concerning because I knew that it was something that had to be defined, right? And something that we needed to, I guess, sit down with the core team and say, what is really our culture? What are we going to do to make people feel that they have, you know, some sort of belonging, or these are the facets, I guess, of being identified as a part of the business. And I've just created.
Sorry to interrupt you. Won't you just pop your presentation onto slideshow?
Okay. Oh, you mean on the, okay, where do we do that?
Just, yeah, there we go.
There we go. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I just knew that, you know what, we actually have to create a culture. It's something that we consciously have to make effort to do. And for me, also, culture creation is not, it's not something that you do once off. I guess it's a continuous reiteration, a continuous practicing, a continuous, emphasis on what we are and who we do, or what we do, and more of what we do, as opposed to just, a defined set of practices on pieces of paper. So really quickly, I came up with, I guess for me, what seemed to have worked. And I'm also here to learn, and I'm actually learning a lot from you ladies that have spoken about culture and, your personal experiences. But I have a simple 5-step process on the active steps that I took to ensure that culture was defined within my organization, or our organization, how we defined our own culture. And the very first was that we needed to self-identify. And what I mean by that is that we needed to know who we are first, right? You need to know who you are first before you can, I guess, define a culture. So we look at facets like, who are you? What do you like? What are your beliefs? What are your values, I guess? And that's the first step, self-identification. The second step was then to, I guess, define based on what you have identified yourself to be. So defining that and ensuring that, outside of these, then that would not, I guess, fit into what you have identified as your culture. That was the second step. And the third step was to map that definition, write it down, and make the vision clear to say, we are Zoe Projects and Consulting, and this is what we believe in. And then on the fourth step, was to practice, right? I believe in practicing. And by practicing, I mean actually going out and doing these things. So for example, if we believe in, I guess, celebrating employee birthdays, right? So what do? We actually have to practice that to make sure that it's embedded within our core corporate culture. So those are some of the steps. And then on the last one, I've put in train. And by that, what we really mean is to ensure that whoever's coming in, whether it's somebody that's coming in newly, they have to be trained, but not in a sense of, a formal training, but rather, incorporated into the culture. And for me, that would also mean the actual, doing the actual practicing of the culture. And oftentimes I've noticed that as you implement, and as you, the leader of the organization, do these things, your immediate, team and the people that you're working with will definitely adapt to that culture. Okay. Lauren, I'm going to ask you to please, take questions on the forum.
I will do, and I'm also checking I'm on the chat of the online, so we can see there. Thanks.
Right. And please pick on some people for me as well. Okay, right. Yeah. So as aware, I just want to share with you a couple of things that we do as part of our culture. And, we do this continuously. And I think by now the team actually do know or it's kind of like an expectation that we will have, you know, one or some. I mean, you'd even have some saying, okay, what do you think the theme could be for this month? For example, let's take, you know, celebrating a birthday, right? They already know that we are going to celebrate a birthday, be it doing like an e-card or something to say happy birthday to one of the employees. Or maybe, you know, if we are on site, then that will also include actually going out to celebrate someone's birthday. But I guess let me just follow the structured list that I have here. The first one will be a motivational word. So we do have our check-ins weekly, where we would have somebody sharing in a motivational word, I guess, to kick off the week, to say that, you know, for this week, this is what we need to do, and this is the kind of attitude that we need to possess and have in order for us to perform our task, you know, diligently and to be successful. So that's number one. The second one, we have a system where we award certificates to I guess, performing individuals just to, you know, appreciate. Sometimes it might not be monetary, or you or the company, the organization might not be in a position to readily, you know, reward people in terms of monetary value. But so this is what we found to work, just recognizing somebody and saying thank you, handing them a little certificate that says thank you for a particular task that you've done, or being employee of the month or employee of the year, something like that, right? And then the third one would be celebrating birthdays. So this one goes without saying, right? Everyone here has a birthday. So ensure that we celebrate your birthday, would wish you a happy birthday, and also create, you know, an e-card or something that has your picture, your name, your role, and a little thank you message from the organization to just thank you on the role that you play. And then the fourth one will be celebrating individual achievements. So that's what we do. So, I mean, if you've just, I'll make just a vague example. You've just maybe graduated, you know, for a master's degree or PhD or whatever you call it, or whatever the case might be. You've just had a new home, a new baby. Oftentimes we ensure that, you know, the employees are aware, and then we would also celebrate those achievements. So those are one of the things as well. And then the last one, as part of our culture, we are also active financial and social participants in the immediate community, and we drive poverty alleviation programs. So for us, this is what we've defined as our culture. And I guess the influence that I've seen is that if you, the leader, do this, then it automatically, I guess, filters down to the rest of the organization. So what we did, you know, I've spoken about training, and and like I said, training was not necessarily, you know, sitting down and making people go through pages and pages of policies and document. But I guess the immediate training was more in aligning and, you know, discussing with the team and constantly doing these things, of which we found, or what I've found to actually have been, you know, a very pertinent, or I guess efficient way to ensure that our culture is instilled. And, you know, we are still learning, we are still growing, and we more than welcome, and we are more than willing to actually learn, I guess, from the forum and the rest of the speakers on how we can, you know, better, I guess, define our culture and make it more conducive for our employees. And also what have we found that this does, so oftentimes, you know, having, I guess, implemented some of these, be it a recognition, an employee recognition, celebrating a birthday, you know, I guess the 5 pointers that I just highlighted just now, I've seen that it does create, you know, a sense of belonging. It does create, you know, a sense of positivity amongst the team, and they do actually feel like they are part of this and we are in this together. And as well as active participation in core teams. I believe that we are motivated, I am motivated, and we are just in it to win it. So yeah, that's what I would say. Okay, thank you, ladies. I can't
For a
hear
second, it looked
anymore.
like you froze. I wasn't sure if you were done or if you were frozen.
Okay,
Before I let you go there, I want to just ask two things.
okay.
And it will probably draw in just a quick show of hands. Who in this room has started their own business? You don't necessarily need to be still doing it now, but just in the expanse of your professional life, who has started their own business?
Tried to, or actually.
So I think one of the things that you really, for me, that I took away from this, Yolanda, is that the success of starting the businesses is committing to creating that culture together. I would imagine it's very easy to be like, this is my baby, and we're wear red on Tuesdays because that's my favorite color, and I don't want to hear anything else about it. And I think we all know people who do that in their own business, and that's absolutely your prerogative. But the actions that you've taken I mean, your business was small. On the first night, I think you said up to 20 people when you initially started this. You know, it's very vulnerable to put it out there and to ask other people, what is your insight? How do you think we should be doing this? Because it is your baby, it's your idea, you've thought of this. But I think the success really depends on that, because you include so much more insight into culture and that acceptance of diversity, you know, so it would be very easy for me to be like, it is like this, because that's what I'm like, that's where I come from. But what you demonstrated, and if you don't mind jumping back a slide, please. The next, sorry, one more. The activity, how you started there. So the self-identification, if you're opening that question up to your team, you can't be prescriptive. You can't define how people are. So for me, that was a really, really great insight. And so I think the first, I said to you, I'd help her with the crowd management on this, but like those of you who've started or are continuing to have your own business, you know, how much did you relate to this, and what have you done beyond this?
It's an interesting step.
It's a big step. It's a vulnerable step, I think. I know you hiding in the corner there, Deirdre, but I'll pull you out now. So we've got, I know, one business owner over here. Sam, I mean, I know you're in recruitment, which is already tough because you're amalgamating loads of other people's culture, but now with Match HR, how have you included people on this journey?
I think just thinking back, it's very important to keep evolving. So taking on other people's ideas, and, you know, not everybody wants to food at the table anymore. You know, and hearing, making sure that you listen to what your people are saying, how they want to work together and collaborate together, and how they prefer to work together, recognizing that. And as long as it's not toxic and disturbing other people, if you're getting into a negative space, you have to just keep evolving. It's not good. I think that's something is that I was definitely that person. I want to have Friday drinks. You have to stay on a Friday afternoon and have drinks with me. But people have to go home. People have got things to do, and you have to just keep evolving according to that. And I think now, working for a fully remote company, my closest colleague is in Bulgaria. So that's like literally, and you have to just keep open communications, reevaluating all the time, the constant conversations and the active listening to what they say and adapting to that.
Awesome. Really, really insightful. Is there anyone online? I can't see all the names, but is there anyone online who has been this involved in creating a company culture, like right from scratch, so to speak? Otherwise, I'm going to have to name somebody. Chanel, there we go. Thanks, Chanel. Pop your camera on quick so we know who we're talking to. I know that you're going to be all perfectly made up, so you can camera ready always.
My
it's
gosh.
part of your brand.
Okay, well, I'm actually on my phone, and now this is the first time I've ever had to be on my phone. So you must forgive me. We have load shedding, so so I'm unable to switch the camera on. But Lauren, you and I, we know each other well, and I think Natasha's in the audience there as well. Natasha Prusen from Legit. I think she's there.
Representatives are.
Okay, marvelous. Well, I just wanted to share my perspective from a cultural perspective in a business. And I know we've done this for Mint in the past before, and we've done it for many other companies too. And it's something that one can revisit, is to really look at the individual's values. And this is something that I do when I have someone coming into my company. I actually take them through a value determination process, and they're often very surprised at how much time I take doing that. But and I always respond to them, well, you know, if I'm interested and I'm investing in you, I know that you're going to invest in me. So that it can be a 2 to 3 hour process, but it's worth investing in. So what I wanted to share was at Legit Smart Solutions, and Natasha will attest to this, and others who are representatives there, on an annual basis, she actually revisits the values of her people who work for her every year, because your values shift and change. So that means if you're shifting and changing, then you're going to be you're going to be relating to the culture in a different way as well. So you're going to have to try and link your individual hierarchy of values to the culture and the traditions of the company itself. So if you've shifted, then your perspective needs to shift in relation to the culture too. So I know that sounds a bit convoluted, but it's something that is ongoing. It's not one meeting you have and then everyone's on board and we're all part of the culture. It's something that needs to be revisited annually, because people shift and change. And so you suddenly have a different person who's evolved and who is now still working for you, but is needing to reevaluate how they are relating to the culture, because they're in a different space in their lives and they've changed. So I thought I'd just put that out there as something that might be something you want to consider. And I know that we have had success with doing it at Legit and with other companies as well. Thanks so much, Lauren. Sorry I couldn't put my camera on everyone. I'm also having a serious FOMO, yeah, so couldn't make it today in person. Sorry. Thank you.
No, that's amazing. And thank you so much. That was really, I think it's just sometimes, it's very, we assume culture to be set, very often we're going to a place and assimilating into that culture, hopefully having some influence. But you really demonstrated beautifully just the influence that we can have. Tying back to what Bron spoke about earlier, it is all the small things. And number 4, right here, practice. This is something that requires mindfulness, just to keep up with it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Next event, you won't be in Dubai, you'll be here with us having a glass of wine.
I'll be back. I'll be back soon.
Awesome. So I'm now going to, there she is, I'm going to hand over, Karifa, won't you, there's no more presentations, Sheshnee is not.
I don't like that.
What I do just want to make sure that is that the camera's on you so that people online can see. So now those of you that want to know how we're going to do this, this is how. So you already know Sheshnee's personality. She's been a very vocal and consistent part of WIT since 2016, I think we made.
Yeah, we did.
So, and the whole point of this is, it's great, and a lot of the things that have been mentioned now have resonated with you, but it comes back to the point, like, how do I do this? Okay. And the reward is when you know how to do it, there's food and wine waiting.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to give the seat so that you guys come in.
Where's Bronwyn? Can these lights go off? Sorry, guys, I'm not. There we go. I know, right? I was going to disrupt, right? All right, guys. So let's start with a story. All I ask is for you to observe stillness and to listen. Okay? I did not belong. I was misunderstood. When I was 14 years old, living with my family, I realized that I did not belong. The culture, the religion, the belief system, and society's pressures was not something I agreed with. Not being able to think for myself or being told what is right from wrong, I was not seen or heard. I had no voice. The escape, my family, my religion, my community. I left home when I was 18, got married at 19, and believed that that was the way out. I had to pretend to be someone I wasn't. The abuse wasn't something that I could imagine until I said no. I lost everything, thinking it was the end. I lost life that I believed was everything. A life that I led to believe of how we should live. Being a traditional wife or woman, I did everything I was supposed to. Of being a wife, of being in this family. Yet I lost everything that I thought I needed. Who am I without what I believed was everything? I started asking myself, who am I with all that I lost? I questioned myself in that particular moment. I was seeking and searching for answers, and I got absolutely nowhere. Until finally I realized that the way out was in. Making a choice for me and not others. Fear, failure, disappointment is what surrounded me. Did I still want to be that same person and to pretend to be somebody that I wasn't? I looked in the mirror and I saw a person that was lost and did not belong. I asked myself, what is true and what do I want? And I had to make a choice. Unlearn to relearn a belief system that had to work for me. I started asking myself the question again, who am I with all that I lost? I questioned every single moment, seeking, searching for answers. I had to unlearn to what did not serve me, and I had to rediscover who, what, why, and how I am. This took me years of understanding, acceptance, and forgiveness. And that is when my story began. A new story was born with an ending of an old story. Once I understood that my pain and suffering speaks my greatest truth, through all the suffering, we find our answers through loss, through divorce, problems we may not wish upon ourselves. However, there lies the opportunity to find a deeper understanding and a sense of belonging. What was an ending was actually a beginning of a story. My voice is the organ of my soul. I found my voice and redefined my truth, understanding what works for me and what are my beliefs that supported me, knowing who I am today. If I wanted to see change, I knew I had to start sharing my story with you. And that's when I became a nonprofit, and I reached out to people by sharing their story. I fell in love with the expression of truth, with myself. Through forgiveness, suffering, acceptance, understanding, and kindness, I belonged. I found how to belong, and I realized that I belonged to self. And once I accepted who I am to self, something that no religion, no culture, Our belief system has taught us to love thyself first before anyone else. Found my purpose through creativity and courage. We are all seeking for something. And for us to understand where we are in this life, I discovered my purpose. The disruptor, right? The voice of change, the voice of change. And that's when I created To Just Be, a practice center that teaches you where to start, question, to disrupt, and rediscover who you are. My truth, my story, tell me yours. Never be a prisoner of your past. It was just a lesson. It's hard to hear the truth and let alone accepting it. Change is never painful. It's only the resistance to change that is actually painful. Today, I'm a proud founder of the Open Mic Foundation and currently share stories across 35 countries around the world. I have a practice center that teaches you how to know yourself and how to discover. And I build teams through consciousness. I am Sheshnee. And to all the people that raised their hands and said that they had businesses, it took creativity and it took courage. And I want to say to you, well done. I always had a cheerleader in my corner, and she always cheers me on. Doesn't matter where we're sitting and which part of the world we are, we're always cheering each other on. And I will always be grateful to you.
Greatest pleasure.
So, I don't do what they just did, right? I mean, you clearly can see that. So if I have to ask you right now, by hearing what I just said to you, how many of you can actually relate to what I just said? But it's sad because we don't share. We don't share truth. We don't share authenticity. People use the word very bluntly, and when people use it, they don't know what it actually means. An expression of yourself is understanding who you are. In order to understand who you are, you can understand how to lead by your truth. Knowing and understanding is two different things. Accepting is something different. We are not perfect, we're human, right? Absolutely. So we talked about toxic. So we're gonna get to toxic. I mean, I need to understand what do you feel about what is toxic. But before we go that, this is where I want to take this conversation, is to know thyself and to build your teams through consciousness. And here's what we do. To understand and to understand how to know yourself, we have to know one thing first, which starts with anything, which is the mind. So if I have to ask you at this moment in time, what is the first thought that comes into your head? So before I spoke, right? You guys all have thoughts. You guys have a thought in your mind right now. Tell me what you're thinking. Come on, just blurt out a word. Doesn't matter. There's no right or wrong, guys. It's not a test.
That was a beautiful post.
That was a beautiful poem. I'm honored. Thank you. What else? Sorry? Intrigued? Okay.
Freedom to be.
Love your words, lady. Pretty lady. I love those words. Yes. Come on, tell me how you're feeling.
Happy.
Good.
Period.
Okay. A thought is about what you're thinking, but it pushes to a feeling. Words generate vibration. Words generate emotion. So Bronwyn touched on feeling. So your thoughts, the process in the loop starts with thought. A thought equals feeling. If you are feeling that emotion becomes an action, and that action becomes a behavior. Think about what I just said. So the simple thing humanity has struggled with, which I'm sure we all have struggled with in this room, the famous thing, I am not enough. Oh, look at those heads, right? Okay, so when we talk about I am not enough, it is something that not only you or me, it's the entire humanity that actually thinks that they're not enough. Your teams, your workers, your CEO, your boss, your leader, they are human. They all think that. They all believe that. Believe it or not, they are human. As much as they come at you, they're human. So when you believe that you are not enough, what happens? You feel, what do you feel? Tell me, what do you feel when you feel that?
Feel lack.
Yeah? Country lady?
Vulnerable.
Vulnerable?
Inadequate.
Okay?
Inadequate.
Inadequate? Insecure?
An imposter.
Imposter syndrome, love it. Yeah? So you see what happens when those words are playing? It triggers a feeling. That feeling makes you react in a certain way. It creates action, right? So if you're feeling vulnerable, let's go with your theory. I love that word. If you're feeling vulnerable because you feel that you're not enough, what do you do as an action? What do you do? What's the behavior?
It depends on your maturity, I guess.
No, I'm talking you.
I mean,
Yes, you.
I usually seek comfort
Okay.
in someone that I really know well.
Okay.
And yeah, that's basically what I do when I do feel vulnerable.
Okay. And what's the behavior? So when you act and you seek someone, what's the behavior that attaches to that? Talk about trust, right? You just nailed it. Thank you very much. Talk about trust, right? Exactly. Because the thoughts that gets generated by people, it's what's making and the belief from a culture perspective, but we don't look at it from that way. I have been, it's been ancient years, 22 years in corporate. I have been in the biggest industry that runs our economy. Okay? I know what you all been through. I know what you're all going through at this moment. My heart goes out to you. It's not easy, right? It isn't easy. However, if you put yourself in the sense of your thoughts, people's thoughts are either in the past, in the future, or in here and now. So if I have to scan this room by show of hands, tell me who, and this is a general statement, not now, but on an average day, like today, let's take today, for example. Where were your thoughts? Raise your hands if your thoughts were in the past. And when I say past, I mean yesterday. From yesterday, going wherever. Past, okay? Future. I love these people. I know. They're more optimistic. And then your present. I see you. Okay, all right. So here's the thing, right? We can't change what happened yesterday. You guys know that, right? We can't correct it. We also can't make anything about yesterday be redone or redo. Okay? For the people that's thinking about the future, you don't even know if you're going to reach that day or that time. You don't even know if you're going to open your eyes the next day. Fair thing, right? I know I'm like making the room dull right now, but I have to shake you up because here's the thing. If you want to have change, or if you want to change what you want to do, it's here now. Why? Because you're alive. Tomorrow ain't guaranteed. Life is ain't guaranteed. You don't even know if you close your eyes tonight, you're going to wake up the next day. Thanks, buddy.
And another glass of wine.
Yeah. There you go, right? So my note is, before you leave, make sure that you eat the best foods. And drink all that wine that Mint has provided, right? Okay. So do you see what I'm saying? to create a business as well moving forward, right? Yes, we think of the future, we think about planning, we think all companies have strategies, they have 12-year, they have 2 years, 3 years, and 5 years, absolutely, right? For sure. But what do we do today to make sure that we help the people that are with us here and now? One of the things that we also look at from a thoughts perspective as well, it's not just the mind, but it's also the heart. So I've had the privilege of working with social change entrepreneurs globally last year, and they are hot. They are so hot. It's unbelievable how hearty they are, right? And then you have corporate, that's analytical, that's structure, that's mind. Decisions are made from corporates through this. Social change entrepreneurs, or any entrepreneur, as you may know, you yourself are business owners, comes from here. And when you take both and you put together, you form a beautiful story. And that is my objective in today, is to bring these two worlds together. Why? Because decision-making happens in corporates through what strategy is telling you how to do, right? What the values are, how this is. Now, why do I say know thyself? Let me unpack a little bit. Firstly, I think Yolanda, you touched about it, about belonging, right? A sense of belonging is to belong to yourself. You cannot belong to a tribe or a team if you do not belong to self first, right? It's like how we talked about self-love over COVID. That was very interesting, right? People don't know how to do self-love, by the way. They think going to a spa is self-love. Let's be honest, right? Yeah. Okay.
Is it not? Define that.
So, and and if that works, that's okay. But you have to go deeper. You also have to understand, what does it mean to go deeper? So yeah, I'm going to shock you again. Okay? If I have to take away all your titles and your jobs, if I take away your family, your children, your moms, your dads, everything, and I have you standing, I can see your expression, girl, and I have you standing here, raise your hands. Do you know who you are without that?
No.
After a lot of work. Okay. So here's the thing. When you attach to jobs, titles, salaries, yes, they do pay the bills, by the way. And when you get attached to all of that, that's when we grieve. And that grief takes us to something that we don't know what to do with it. See, Sheshnee, you've got a thought there. Give me something. Give me some energy there.
I want to say
Give me
something.
Yes, go for it.
There's a saying that goes, or rather one of my personal quotes, work on being and not having, right? So work on yourself and not work on necessarily getting stuff or acquiring. And, in the working on yourself, in the working on defining yourself, then with that being said, it means that even if you may lose everything, but because you've so worked on yourself and worked on being, you can actually reproduce everything else after that.
Thank you for that. I like that. Share with me.
So I've always thought I'm very self-aware.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm aware when I'm uncomfortable. I will not wear anything that's uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I'm aware of the space I'm in. I'm always, I keep to myself. I have tons of friends, but they will tell you I most likely call them after a year or something.
Okay.
Because I feel, look, if I talk to you today and I talk to you in 12 months' time, unless death has happened or I need to be there in a moment that matters to you the most,
Mhm.
and in a moment where I'm making the most impact.
Okay.
So when I joined the current company that I was in, I think I was in a very difficult place as a
Okay.
person because, yeah, the old company was very passionate. But I think in that, I learned to define who I am outside the job, outside the husband, outside the kids, outside my family, outside just everything that I have. And it always takes, and funny enough, that's what I was saying to my colleague, I've decided to just be uncomfortable in everything, just be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
If I want to do something, I need to be uncomfortable because then it will force me to change. I can't always be in a comfort zone.
Mhm.
And that's who I am. So that's why I say it's easy for me to say I know who I am because I get even irritated when someone says, oh, you know, Mujalif, my husband's name is Mujalifa's wife. I'm like, before Mujalifa's wife, I am Lindy. Right, so that's me.
So just a few things, right? So I got a timer here that's buzzing. Just like up my skirt. Okay, so a few things. So firstly, your thoughts are linked to your belief systems. Period. If your belief systems work for you, then they work. If they don't, and you start doubting it, that's when it starts triggering and the rediscovery starts happening. Okay? In terms of what can you do to start the journey of know thyself, the first indication I can tell you, the first tool to do is to take 10 or 20 minutes of your day, set aside, journal your thoughts to introspect. Okay? You can even do this with your teams. You know, you do introspection when it comes to projects. As I've been in projects for so long, so bad. Right? I'm speaking corporate terms now. Okay, so introspection, right? Journal thoughts for introspection. That introspection of your thoughts leads to your truth. There's no filter, no one's seeing it. You are in a safe space. Do it with your teams. It works. Come out the next day or make it once a week. Make it once a week with your teams, right? That's the one thing. The second thing that can also help you with toxic people, and I've heard the word toxic twice or 3 times. Just remember something. They are bullies. Okay? We all have bullies. We face bullies. I have learned so much from bullies. They taught me so much. They taught me how not to be. Right? You learned that from them. They taught you how not to be. Just remember something. They are also going through their own journey, their own discovery. My advice to you is take the step and tell the bully or tell toxic culture or management, whoever it may be, how they make you feel by doing what they do. So if someone's coming and says, and they're shouting and they're screaming and they're in your ear and they're not giving you time or day to say anything, let it be. Walk away. Go to that person the next day or after he's cool or she has cooled down and go to them and tell them, I do not appreciate you speaking in the tone that you have done. And you have made me feel as if I am incompetent. And you have now made me self-doubt myself because of what you have said. In a closed room, we are too afraid to speak up and we are too scared to say what we feel. Why? Because we think we can control someone's reaction. We think we know the law of control is I can only control my thoughts, which leads to feelings, which leads to action, which leads to behavior. The law of control says you can only control the thoughts as the starting point. I hope that makes sense. Am I within time? Any questions, guys? That was quick.
So, a bit of salsa. Can I put the lights back on now,
Yes, you
just so we can see in the back there in case anyone can see?
Let the light shine.
Thank you, Sheshnee. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the ladies on the call if there are any questions or observations from you. Anyone on the call that this resonated, you kind of feel like you're being pushed out of your comfort zone, please give me love. Everyone's quiet. Ladies on the call, you're welcome to drop off. You're welcome to stay on, but you're welcome to drop off because these ladies are about to do 10-star jumps and just wake up. But we also just have a few goodies that we're going to be handing out in person, a little bit of a teaser for you to come in person next time. But thank you very much for joining us. Those of you in the room still, so a couple of things that Sheshnee spoke about, and I could hear and see everyone's reaction. Either the complete silence was a very big telling point, but also just like we're all in the same boat. So the question was asked earlier, how do I stand up to a toxic culture, a difficult manager, a difficult colleague? And I think if we just take one thing from each of these ladies who spoke tonight, so Bron, the takeaway for Bron was it's the small things. Don't get pulled into that. You know, and the best way to test yourself on that is how do you respond in load shedding traffic when somebody cuts you off? I have the best solution. Because if you get pulled into that and your day is ruined because somebody cut you off and now beep, you need to, there's a beautiful indicator of exactly where you are in your personal growth. Because if you can't rise above something as far removed from your day as another driver, then you know where you are, and that's amazing. Because if you don't know where you are, you don't know where to start working.
What are you talking about, Lord? They cut me off.
So I think the first thing is, it's the small things. What are the small things that you're doing, and what are the small things that are happening around you? And it's your culture at work, it's your culture in your team, it's your culture at home, it's your culture with your friends. If we go to what Yolanda was chatting about, and just all the things it requires, like perspective. I'm a white, middle-aged, single woman. This is what I know. So I can create a company with other white, middle-aged, single mothers, and we might be able to solve problems. I did enjoy that meme that's gone around recently about if you want something solved, get two middle-aged women to go together on a walk. And before you know it, they'll have solved everything. And I can relate to that. Okay. But it's my perspective. And so diversity and not being afraid to ask the other people in your teams and around you for their input. Or to put yourself out there and to give your input. And you know, Sheshnee really put us all on the spot there about what are our thoughts. Because those spirals, those negative spirals are so easy to go down in. And I think that influence, we underestimate the influence you have on the culture around you. And it can be positive or negative. So really, thank you to our three speakers. I know Bron, we kicked her out of her own venue. Bron, come back into your venue. But really, thank you. And you know, there's so much to process. So I hope that you guys have got some benefit out of this. And to all the ladies on the call, I see loads of messages coming up. Thank you very much. And Yo, thank you very much. And we'll see you next time in person, not in Dubai.
Definitely.
And everybody on the call, thank you for joining this evening. And if you can, you go and have a glass of wine where you are. We're going to go and have a glass of wine where we are.
Rub it in, Lauren.
Have a glass for me, guys.
We will, yeah. We will do. We will do. Louise, would you just drive for me and leave that one? Yes, that's why I want to. I don't want them to have